week 15 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few running backs I look to drop this week. The first guy, Tony Jones of the Seattle Seahawks. So Tony Jones, I thought he was going to be a good pickup this week after last week. Once Kenneth Walker went down, we saw him get most of the work. But Travis Homer was the guy in that ball game in week 14 versus the Carolina Panthers. So Tony Jones, he didn't get much work in that game, if any at all. 1 carry for 2 yards and 2 targets with a catch for no yards. In week 15, it's a short week. Thursday Night Football versus San Francisco 49ers. And even if he was a starter, he was a guy you wouldn't start anyway this week versus the Niners. I give up the least amount of fantasy points to running backs on the season. So right now, Jones, he got added in 23% of fantasy leagues for no reason pretty much. And he's a drop this week. The next running back's Michael Carter of the New York Jets. So right now, Zonovan Knight, he looks like the man over there in the backfield for this New York Jet team. And Michael Carter, in his return at the Buffalo Bills, 5 carries for 5 yards with 3 catches, 15 yards, and a fumble loss. So right now, Zonovan Knight, he's at double-digit fantasy points 3 games in a row here. He looks like the more physical back. He looks like the better running back. James Robinson, he has been a factor over the last few weeks. And Michael Carter, that 1 week with injury, definitely cost him here in this opportunity in the Jets backfield. So right now, even if him and Carter split is Knight and Carter, I don't see him doing much here, is Michael Carter, especially in a 50-50 role. And I think Knight's the goal line back either way with Carter splitting with him or not. So right now, he's a running back I would drop, and a guy you're really not going to start anyway. And the third and final running back I would drop this week's Kareem Hunt of the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, I think, made a mistake not trading Kareem Hunt before the NFL trade deadline, where I think they could have fetched a 3rd or 4th rounder in this one. And over the last few weeks, this running game in the whole hasn't been good. Nick Chubb's numbers have gone down a lot, and Kareem Hunt, he really hasn't done anything here except one decent ball game. Week 12 versus Tampa, 5 carries, 15 yards, a catch, 6 yards. Week 13 at Houston, 9 carries, 56 yards, 2 catches, 18 yards. And week 14 at Cincinnati, only 4 carries, 6 yards, 2 catches, 6 yards. So the next couple weeks, tough matchups on paper here for Kareem Hunt. Week 15 versus Baltimore, 5th least amount of fantasy points to backs. And then week 16 versus New Orleans, 11th least amount of fantasy points to running backs. So right here, he hasn't been touching the ball much. This offense is going in a different direction now with Deshaun Watson back and throwing the football a little bit more. And Kareem Hunt's not a guy really viable for fantasy, so that's a few running backs I look to drop here for week 15 of the fantasy football season.